Welcome to Oddball, Oddball. That's Oddball. This is the show where we talk hoops in an odd way. I'm Amin Elhassan. That over there is Izzy Gutierrez. We got a great show for you today. Today's episode is brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Huzzah! Huzzah!
What are we doing? Old and British? Are we just spelling things? What's going on today? I guess we're doing European, right? Because over the weekend, at least Thursday and Saturday, we had the Paris games. And it was the Spurs and the Pacers. They played a couple of games in Paris. Spurs won the first one, 140-110. The Pacers won the next one, almost by 40. Nothing really happened on the court, of that much note other than watching Victor Wembanyama. But this was kind of about turning Victor Wembanyama into the face of the league, or helping sort of transform him into that. And it came at a really interesting time to me, because we also have sort of, the obvious aging of LeBron and him no longer being able to be the face of the league right at that age. Steph Curry, we're getting these sad press conferences from Steph. Oh, the team this, and talk about the future. And oh my gosh, we're 1-20 when leading out or trailing after third quarters. What? And so it does feel like a decent time to discuss what the future of the face of the league is. But I guess first we have to kind of figure out what that is and why, I guess in our opinion, Victor Wembanyama would be a good fit.
Izzy, the first time I ever heard the concept of the face of the league, who's the face of the league? Who's going to be the face of the league? It was after Michael Jordan's first retirement. And there was a real kind of power vacuum as to who the face of the league would be. Luckily, Michael Jordan came back to be the face of the league, but then he retired again in 1998. So then we're back to who's going to be the face of the league. Then he came back in 2001, but by then he was no longer the face of the league, even though he's Michael Jordan, even though he sold out every game and all that stuff. He just was at that age where he wasn't good enough, right? And so the way I think about it, like you said, we got to define this first. You got to have, number one, either an upward trajectory or you're at the peak. Hard to be the face of the league on the downslope, right? So that's number one. Number two is you got to have some version of likability. Now, I say some version because there are multiple types of likability. Sometimes people like you because you're polished, you're well-mannered, and you are professional. Sometimes people like you because, gosh darn it, even though this guy colors outside the lines, we like him nonetheless. Sometimes people like you just because you're so successful that we almost feel like, I have to respect and bow down before this. But one way or another, there has to be some measure of likability in there.
I would say it even starts likability, yes, but also ability, right? In basketball ability. Like if you go from Michael Jordan to LeBron James, maybe even throw like Kobe Bryant in there, if you will, at least for a minute before he kind of got in trouble. And then let's say you're jumping to Wemby. Your starting point is basketball wise, can't fail. Like he is either too good to fail, too physically gifted to fail. And in Victor Wembanyama's case, feels like he's too physically gifted to fail and also has that want to, right? Like LeBron, it feels like changed the game in that respect, whereas he sort of knew as he was 16 years old, I have the potential to be that, but that comes with a desire. That comes with a work ethic that, people would say is unmatched. It comes with perhaps a longevity that's required to be that person and winning eventually at the highest level. But it starts with, yes, he's got to be physically capable of being a dominant basketball player, and then you have to like him some. And it feels like Victor Wembanyama has those elements down so far.
Yeah, so you got two jobs. Job number one, I should have mentioned that, is you got to be excellent at basketball, right? Like you cannot be the face of the league as someone who is not at the bare minimum MVP caliber. Right. And it might be even higher than MVP caliber. You have to be multiple time MVP caliber, even if you end up winning just one. Right. So that's number one. And then the other stuff, the second job is to understand I can't just show up to the practice facility, do my job, do my work, and go home. Right. That's the Kawhi Leonard kind of mentality. Tim Duncan is another guy like that. You can't be the face of the league if you're like, this is my only job is to be excellent at basketball. There's a part of this where we got to sell what we're doing. And so I think about, the three different paradigms, if you will, of, what you can be. You've got Jordan, who was excellent and sellable, right? But also distant.
Right.
There's a level of like it because he's a deity. It's like I'm here to worship you. I'm not here to actually get to know who you are.
I don't understand how good you are. I just want to take it in. I'm not doing a deep dive into how. Just let me absorb it.
I'm here to revel. And he makes himself available in terms of, you can see my excellence. You can hear the stories of how hard I work and all that. But you're not going to get to know me as a person. Don't come up to me trying to be my buddy. Got layers of security around me, but and that all serves that like I am something to be worshipped from afar thing. The other kind is, like I said, the Charles Barkley, the aw shucks, man. Like, oh, you want a drink and a beer and a picture? Let's do it all. And that's the guy that, by the way, I can color outside the lines some, right? I can get into some trouble. I can throw a guy out of a bar window in a brawl. And when they ask me if I have any regrets, I can say, I regret it wasn't on a third story, right? That's something that
with a guy like that, though, there has to be sustainability, right? You can't like for 20 years, 15, 20 years, be that same guy that does, hey, I got in some trouble, but I'm going to bring it back because I'm likable and I'm just going to smile at the camera or give you a great quote. I feel like those are, all-stars in the league. They might even be, first ballot Hall of Famers when you think of, potential faces in the league, but they're not the face of the league. That requires one person who seems like he's committed to it, which is why I think there's been an evolution from Jordan. Like if you jump from Jordan to LeBron, like LeBron, even though he is not the most likable person even on social, he at least embraced that part of it. He's got elements of social that even if he wasn't trying to become viral, he became viral. Can't believe this is my life, where he created deluxe albums, all that stuff, right? So I think that part, you look and you say, okay, Victor has that sort of that viral potential just by being on camera, just by being caught on a clip. And I think that, in essence, makes him more suited than anybody else. I thought maybe for Zion it would be for a little while, but there's a whole bunch of elements that don't fit for him either.
Well, I mean, look, so LeBron is the third paradigm, which is I'm professional, I do everything right. And my likability stems from that. And I think you're right in that Victor kind of fits in that mold. You talk about LeBron as a 16-year-old understanding the task ahead of him, the two jobs, if you will. Victor seems through age 20 seems to have a lot of that understanding. I'm not a kid. I'm a grown man doing the grown man business. Now, when you talk about the other part of it, right? Like the idea that there is an element of evolution there. I agree with you, but all of it also kind of stems back towards excellence, right? Because there has to be an element of people resenting your excellence. Wembanyama is not there yet. He's still young, but LeBron definitely is. And that's kind of like where Patrick Mahomes is in the NFL, right? They're going to the Super Bowl again. They got a chance to win 3 in a row for the first time in NFL history. And Patrick Mahomes embodies all the things we talk about LeBron, the professionalism, the understanding, the immense skill level. And yet people are like, we're tired of it. We're tired of the Chiefs winning all the time, which is, in a weird way, the NBA and the NFL flip-flop, right? It used to be we were the sport where the same team kept winning.
Predictable.
And the NFL was parity. Every year it could be anybody. And now it's like the NFL has this thing that can't be stopped in Mahomes and the Chiefs. And the NBA is, well, I don't know who's going to win it this year, just like I didn't know last year.
Well, that's why the face of the league has to have a narrative that is ongoing, okay? So LeBron James, a lot like Michael Jordan early on, hey, if you're so good, why aren't you winning all these championships? Okay. And, through whatever it was, 9 years, LeBron hadn't won anything. He got to Miami. It became, oh, okay, you have to learn how to win a championship. This is fun following that narrative. With Victor Wembanyama, it can't just be, hey, I'm really good. Look how, long I am. I'm going to win Defensive Player of the Year 4 years in a row. Oh, wait, I've only made the playoffs once, or I've only won 2 playoff games. Like there has to be something there. It'd be great if he starts the playoffs and ends up playing against Nikola Jokic his first year, and you realize, oh, that's the big man, that's the peer that I have to get through. But that has to be there. That's the most impressive part to me about LeBron is he had that immediate one, the obvious narrative, but it just kept evolving. Okay, can he win one for his hometown? Can he win one for another franchise? Can he chase the ghost of Jordan? That has been there pretty much up until now, where you're still talking, oh, okay, his team might be a contender this year. Can he, add to that total?
All right, Izzy. So, here's the cool thing that's been happening with Victor Wembanyama. He actually surpassed Steph Curry as the NBA's second most viewed player on socials. Number one is still LeBron. And, a lot of that happened because they created a lot of content out there in France. Content featuring Wembanyama has more than 108 million views across NBA socials. This video from out in Paris is the 5th most viewed video across the NBA's accounts this season. It's Victor Wembanyama juggling a soccer ball. Very great footwork for someone that size again.
Yeah.
Izzy, what is your takeaway that he is able to kind of rest this spot that for Steph has kind of been hallowed ground?
Yeah, it's funny because I think of, and I mentioned earlier sort of the sad press conferences with Steph. His peak, I feel like, in terms of just viral videos, might have been those Olympics, might have been that image of just Victor Wembanyama, like crazy. How did I not block this shot? Because not only did it feel like the peak of his powers, but like, what else can that guy do? Like, what more impressive way can you shoot a jump shot than that right there and make images, match that? With Victor Wembanyama, you look at that video, that's not even that impressive looking. Like, he doesn't look like he's 8 feet tall doing something that most humans can't do. It's just another thing to sort of log into or download and just be like, okay, he can do that too. It's more confirmation that, okay, as long as he's focused and not getting hurt, this guy physically will be able to do anything on the basketball court. And at his size, something we've never seen before. I'm going to keep my eye on that kid.
Yeah. And by the way, it's no coincidence that Steph's picture, part of that is because Victor Wembanyama's in it. It's a nice kind of like proverbial passing of the torch. The crazy thing is, so he's out in Paris, he's doing all these meet and greets, and he's speaking to the crowd, and he's going to a PSG game, and he's juggling a soccer ball on the sideline, and it's all awesome, and he's answering the call. I wonder 3 to 4 years from now, is he still going to have the energy for this? As the stakes get higher, as the criticisms start rolling in about what have you done for me lately, is he going to be able to continue to do all this?
Crazy.
I remember, I'm not trying to compare players, but I remember Omri Caspi when he came over. Every city he would go into, every NBA city, there would be a Jewish heritage night that the team would throw. And then afterwards, he'd have to talk to local community groups and stuff like that. And at first, it's awesome. It's an honor, right? But after a while, you're just drained and exhausted of every night. You can't just get in the showers and get on the bus. You've got responsibilities, and it weighs on these people. And Omri Caspi, like Victor Wembanyama, was a pro prior to coming to the NBA. It's not like being a professional athlete was a big surprise to him. It's just all of this added stuff, the second job, if you will. It gets tiring after a while.
Yeah, I don't think that, this is going to sound weird, I don't think that being French is helping him be the face of the league, right? I think if he was an American dude that was that long and freakish and was this good, he would still be that potential. This just adds something else to that. And it recognizes, oh, there's a whole nother country, perhaps a whole nother continent over there looking at this guy even more intensely than we are, because we are still distracted by, the Ja Morants or the Anthony Edwards of the world. And so that's where I think, like you mentioned, to avoid that fatigue, it's wild that he's only 20. He needs somebody else at least competing with him, not just to create his own narrative, but to be that face of the league. He needs to see if, hey, Anthony Edwards can have that Michael Jordan element to him, maybe like Vince Carter, but more competitive element to him. I'm sorry.
Why you do that? Vince just got his jersey retired.
I know. That's why I said that. He just happened to him. But I think he needs somebody else to be the yin to his yang, if you will. And I think Anthony Edwards, while he probably is not prepared or even wants to be face of the league, I think he's got a bunch of the elements too, potentially.
I wonder. I think he does. He's got a new commercial. It's going to drop All-Star Weekend, I believe, or maybe Super Bowl. I don't know how these things work. But it's him and Kevin Garnett, and they're actually talking about this kind of stuff. Are you ready? Kevin Garnett is kind of giving him a pep talk. Are you ready for what's next? And I think Anthony Edwards, first of all, he has the Barkley-like ability, which is I think I can color outside the lines and you're still going to like me and root for me because, aw shucks, I just have such a great personality. But also, like Barkley, an excellent player. And like Barkley, he's going to be judged by the success of his team. So I think that's the one thing. But because he is American, I think it gives him a leg up. And so I agree with you. It'd be nice to have kind of a yin and yang between those two guys. Unfortunately, the Timberwolves aren't as good as they were last year. Otherwise, we could get it in the form of a playoff meeting between the two. Hey, maybe it's a play-in meeting between the two. But the faster that those two names get linked, I think the better for this conversation. But before we end right here, I want to give Victor Wembanyama his flowers. And this Valentine's Day, 1-800-Flowers.com has you covered. Order early and score huge savings like double the roses for free. Act now. Visit 1-800-Flowers.com/oddball. And by the way, Wembanyama in France, 50 points, 23 rebounds, 8 assists, and 6 blocks in 2 games. The Pacers and the Spurs, of course, split the series 1-1.
Wouldn't he be I think we should make this a thing. Like, we should give away flowers because I feel like you know how NHL, they have the 3-star situation? Just give a dude his flowers. I think Vic would accept it, walk away, look pretty classy carrying a bouquet of flowers, no?
I think so too, especially if it comes from 1-800-Flowers. 1-800-Flowers.com has you covered for Valentine's Day. Order early and score huge savings like double the roses for free. Act now. Visit 1-800-Flowers.com/oddball. We got Hot Streak coming up next.
How do you say flowers in French?
Ugh.
All right, it was Groundhog's Day in the NFL. We saw that the Eagles are going back to the Super Bowl, but also Kansas City Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl. But after that Eagles-Commanders game the other night, Amin, we had Paul George getting stuck in traffic on Broad Street. He's new to Philadelphia, probably didn't realize that these folks not only clog up the streets, occasionally they eat poop in the middle of the street after their team does well. That's not a good look. He needs like darker tints. Like, you can't be going through the streets this obviously showing who you are.
Well, you can't have a tint on the windshield, can you?
I mean, you can have them so dark, like maybe like on the top half. I don't even know. But I'm not that level of famous. But yeah, that's got to be absolutely miserable. Another reason why NFL game's a little better from home.
He looks pissed. He looks so angry. But again, yeah, man. Where was he going, by the way? It was Sunday. They didn't have a game. There's only one game on the docket. Nah, he messed up. I thought he was going to work, but nah, man, you messed up, bro. At 4:00 in the afternoon, where are you driving?
Especially when that's the early game. You know you want to watch the second game. It's the better game of the two anyway. You can't plan this way. You have to be parked somewhere.
Okay, so I want to ask you, is it worse to be kind of someone who doesn't have a skin in the game, who gets caught in, I guess, collateral damage traffic there? Or is it worse to be Josh Hart? Because Jalen Brunson tweeted that he saw Josh Hart leave the Eagles Commanders before the fourth quarter even started. Josh Hart, obviously a huge Commanders fan. He's from the DMV area. Hart replied, "Have to get home so I can sleep. One of us has to play defense tomorrow."
That's his go-to. He will forever have that in this friendship as the one who's got to do the heavy lifting when, let's be honest, Jalen Brunson is doing the heavy lifting here. I don't know why you're even getting so defensive here. The Commanders are playing with house money. They weren't playing for the rent. They were playing with house money. He should go ahead and celebrate. At least he got out of the way early, got home, got to relax, didn't get stuck in traffic like Paul George.
Did he go to the game?
No, wherever he was, I'm sure there was traffic.
Look, man, either way, like you said, you're not supposed to be here, and you got a young quarterback, and you're supposed to do this like time and time again over the course of his career, unless you mess it all up with the Commanders. Usually do, probably in Josh Hart's history. He wasn't alive, I don't think, when they won the Super Bowl. But again, the question is who had a worse day, Paul George or Josh Hart?
Well, now we know that Josh Hart is a Commanders fan. Didn't know that before the start of the day. So I would say Paul George had the worst day because is he an Eagles fan or is he just stuck in Philadelphia traffic?
Just stuck in Philadelphia traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's get going with another edition of Hot Streak. Hot Streak is presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Hell yeah, or huzzah, if you're one of those guys. Last week, we faded Izzy's pick because it was awful. And we went with Lakers plus 6.5 against the Celtics on Thursday night.
Whoa. We were just discussing the possibilities. And I said out loud, hey, I feel like maybe the Celtics might recover, might blow the Lakers out here. And you said the exact opposite. And I said, you know what? Maybe we should go with your pick.
Yes. And we did. And the Lakers pulled off a not surprising, because we picked it. 117-96 win. Such a blowout that even Bronny got to play. Oh, my God. That's how you know he's the human victory cigar, just like Darko Milicic 2 decades ago. All right. So let's stay hot this week. What's our streak, by the way? That's not 1 in a row, is it? It's 2, 3. 3?
I think it's 1 in a row. I think the previous one was
a push.
Houston +4, and they lost.
That was a
5.
push.
No, they lost by 5 to the Kings.
Oh, never mind. Okay.
Yeah. So, by the way, speaking of human victory cigars, I just need to remind people that Red Auerbach used to do that. To talk smack after a game would light up a victory cigar while it's still happening. It was like the origin of smack talk in the NBA.
Oh, man. I never considered we'd have to explain where the victory cigar came from in order to explain what a human victory cigar is. Jesus Christ.
There are people who don't even understand Tracy McGrady right now. We have to go way back in history to
You're right.
describe a lot of things.
All right. So first game we have on the docket, Rockets, Celtics. The Celtics are 6-point favorites. Both of them are number 2 seeds in their respective conferences. The game is in Boston. Boston has, they started the season strong, but they've hovered around 500 for about a month now. We started our hot streak by predicting they'd be upset by the Lakers. Izzy, do you like Rockets at Celtics?
This one's tough to me. Are the Celtics now starting there? Hey, we got to bounce back. Let's play hard at home. It's really tough because the Rockets just do play crazy defense, and they sort of make you frantic, but the Celtics can also just light you up. So I don't know. I'm afraid on this one. I feel like I want to stay away from that game.
Let's see what else we got.
All right, we got the Pistons at the Cavs. Man, another Thompson twin. How about that? The Cavs, they've lost 3 games in a row. Evan Mobley missed the first 2 losses of those 3. So he was back, but they lost still a game with him. They'll attempt to right the ship with JB Bickerstaff and the Pistons. This is kind of is it a revenge game if it's a coach that you fired? Who is it a revenge game for? I don't even know. What do you think about this one, Amin?
Yeah, no, I think it is a revenge game for JB Bickerstaff. The Pistons are going to be fired up to stick up for their coach and to show that, hey, man, coach got a bad rap or whatever. Also, the Pistons have been playing really good over the last few weeks. So this one, 11 is a big spread. So I'm going to keep my eye on that one. Let's go to the third game just to kind of round it out. Magic at Heat. The Magic are 1-point favorites on the road. Jimmy has missed 9 of the Heat's last 12 games. He'll make his second return for suspension this season against the Magic. Orlando now has Franz Wagner back and Paolo Banchero back. What do you think, Izzy?
I mean, it seems like a smallish spread to me. I would think the Magic would be significantly favored here, especially because given the sort of volatile nature of the Heat. By the way, I think Jimmy thought he would be traded by the time he had to get on that flight last week and just gambled wrong and suspended for 2 more games. If I'm picking this game, I think it's easy. I think Magic -1 is an easy pick. But again, this could be a little bit of my heart talking because I feel badly for the Miami Heat.
Yeah, it's to me, that's one of the ones you take off the board because Jimmy Butler, you don't know what mindset. He might show up and be like, you know what? I'm going to be the best player on the floor, clearly. And then they win by 12, right? Or he might do what he's done in some games where it looks like he's like, well, you guys don't want me to be the man, so let the man take care of it. So I shy away from that. I'm looking at that Cavs Pistons, and I'm saying
where you're leaning.
11's a lot.
It's a big
I'm not saying the Cavs aren't going to win that game. I'm saying 11's a lot. The Pistons are a lot better than people give them credit for. I'm going Pistons +11. Izzy, are you with me?
I think I'm going to follow you here. Not only do the Pistons are surprisingly good, but they've had a couple of comebacks, right? Large comebacks, or at least close to coming back. And so they could be down 20 in this game in the fourth quarter. I feel like they'll still try to make a run and make it respectable. I like the Pistons +11. I'm taking a Thompson twin regard.
Really quick before we get out. Of course, yeah. And it all comes back to the Thompson twins. Before we get out of here, Izzy, Jimmy's over-under is at 13.5 points. Are you taking the over or the under?
Oh, man, I'm definitely taking the under. I just don't feel like if he's going to play, if he's just going to be a guy that just shoots a lot to say, hey, this is me playing hard. No, if I'm going to pick an over-under on him to prove he's playing hard, 1.5 steals would be the number for me.
I'm going over on the points. 13.5 is criminally low. That's going to do it for Oddball. We got a Kobe Bryant tribute that we're going to do on YouTube. Catch us there. So this past Sunday, January 26th, marks the 5-year anniversary of the passing of Kobe Bryant and his daughter, Gigi, as well. Izzy, people ask me all the time, hey, what was Kobe like? And I tell them I never had a single word of conversation with him, even though this person was the central figure for a good 6 years of my career as far as who we had to account for in terms of the Phoenix Suns and the ultimate success of making it to the NBA Finals and winning a championship. The Lakers loomed in front of us, and Kobe Bryant was kind of the focus of a lot of our conversations. But I never actually met the guy or knew the guy. You have, though. You have had conversations.
Yeah, it was so it's one of, people talk about all the time, remember where you were. This was, I'll always remember where I was. It was just very shocking. I was in a storage facility, just moving in and out a bunch of stuff, including a bunch of Kobe sneakers that I had in storage. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I think the first place that I'll always sort of remember Kobe is, it's like, I think I mentioned it on the show before, where he sort of blessed me with a great interview. And it was, you remember the time where he went off on Mitch Kupchak after a practice or during a practice and just, said, this is, who you got for me, and just sort of stormed off. Right?
Tissue paper.
Yeah, tissue paper, soft as Charmin. And I had his very next game. I was doing sidelines. It was against the Spurs in San Antonio, and he hadn't talked to the media about it yet. And this was at a time where, based on his rant, Lakers weren't very good. And yet they go into San Antonio and win the game. I'm pretty sure it was a multiple overtime game, but regardless, they went into San Antonio and won the game. And now I am going to be the first reporter asking him a question, and it's got to be about that, right? It can't just be about this win in a season that's not that important to them. And so I, to that point, had experiences interviewing Kobe Bryant, most of them in small groups, not necessarily one-on-one. And I thought to myself, this could go horribly. Like, he just went off on his whole team. Why wouldn't he just leave me hanging there in, by the way, San Antonio, where, Greg Popovich famously messes with sideline reporters. And so, I went up, and I believe I was slightly encouraged, because I remember him just acknowledging me one time while I was sitting on the sideline, and he was sort of waiting, on the bench while everybody was late in their warm-ups, and he had just kind of given me a head nod. And I was like, oh, thank goodness he knows who I am at the very least, right? But then, so I started asking, and I don't remember what my first question was, whether it was about the game or whether it was about, the Kupchak incident or what have you. But he was so good with his first answer. And it just let me know, oh, I can continue pulling on this thread. And I want to say 3 questions in, and he was phenomenal on all of them. And it just made me, and people on, Twitter at the time were just like, wow, what a great interview by Israel. And I was just like, what do you mean? Like, Kobe just allowed that to happen. It could have been anybody asking those questions. He was ready for that. And how these people have, like, when I say these people, I mean these superpower competitors, right? I believe he wanted to discuss that and wanted to win that game so badly just because of that. And that, to me, will forever be like my Kobe moment, even though to most people, it's nothing.
Yeah. The where you were, I feel like everybody in basketball will forever be able to answer this question. I answer that question almost with a little too much detail, because I was in New York that week for the memorial service for David Stern, who had passed away earlier in January. So they had a memorial service at Radio City Music Hall. It was a who's who of NBA people there. And I went to Knicks Lakers at Madison Square Garden. I believe that was a Thursday night. Then Saturday was Lakers at Sixers. LeBron was supposed to pass Kobe in points scored that night. So the whole day we were kind of running with Kobe highlights and Kobe stories, and Kobe tweeted something towards LeBron telling him like congratulations and all this stuff. And it was very top of mind, right? So I leave Philadelphia, I come back to New York, I do 3 hours of radio for SiriusXM radio. I leave the studio. I go back to my hotel. I'm getting ready to go to the airport to fly home. My boss at SiriusXM calls me and says, "Hey, there's a report that Kobe Bryant passed away. Are you still by the studio?" And so I changed my flight. I went back to the studio, and then me and Jason Jackson, we did 3 hours of radio. For the first 40 plus minutes, it was unsubstantiated reports. We're waiting for confirmation from someone who wasn't TMZ, right? And then finally the confirmation came in, and we're doing it, and we're breaking the story live. So at first it was Kobe Bryant has passed away. Then there might have been other people. Then it's his child. And that was the part where I broke, because, it's kind of numb through that first hour just talking about it. But, Kobe and I are roughly the same age. We same high school graduating class. So, and we obviously both have children, 3 kids. So at that moment, that's when it got, like, for me, super real, because it turned from like, wow, this really weird tragedy to, oh my God, a child and other teammates, by the way, children who had their whole lives ahead of them. Who, in a weird way, Kobe Bryant, even though he was my age, he'd accomplished so much in his life. NBA champion, a Hall of Famer, top, he would eventually be top 75 player of all time. All of these accolades that he wanted to do in that chosen profession of his, he had accomplished and retired, right? His child and the other children, they barely probably knew what they wanted to do. They just started the journey of trying to figure out what they wanted to do. And that, for that to be cut short, that part shook me and rocked me to my core.
Even when you said it, it's almost like when I talk about it all over again, you just reminded, and it's a gut punch. It's like, oh yeah, it was his daughter too. And it was just, it's heart-wrenching. And I think he was potentially prepared. You're never going to be able to prove this. He was potentially prepared to have a better post-basketball career than his actual basketball career, because that's how much of just a seemingly great and ambitious human he was.
Absolutely. So rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, to Gigi Bryant, to the rest of the families obviously affected, and we remember you 5 years out.